Today is December 21st, and we are joined by a special friend. His name is Ryan Ruocco. Let's do it. Let's talk Yanks.
Talking Yanks with old Jomboy Jake. Recaps galore and weekly awards. Stat lines, steaming hot takes. Your Yankees news with these two fine dudes. It's time for Talkin' Yanks. Talkin' Yanks with old Jomboy Jake. Talkin' Yanks with old Jomboy Jake.
Hello and welcome to Talkin' Yanks. Thank you very much for dropping by, tuning in, and listening to us today. My name is Jimmy. Sitting next to me is Jake. Usually in the corner is Bug Dude, but he's out because he's producing another show. Just Mr. Producer Dude. We just wrapped up a chat with good friend Ryan Ruocco. Talked about a lot of stuff, Jake.
A lot of stuff.
List it numerically.
Ooh, okay. So we started out... let's see, there was a section about hair. We did a net section. We did a Sabathia section. We talked about a ton of stuff. Ryan's awesome. It's almost hitting the point where it's one of those weird things that we haven't gotten to hang out with Rooks because of COVID, and like I just moved here, and we talk about that a little bit on the podcast. But I mean, He's awesome. He's been awesome to us. I think anyone that gets in contact with Ryan Ruocco says he's been awesome to us, though. So, I mean, we had a blast. We just straight up yucked for the first 30 minutes or so, and then we got into some of the Yankee stuff. And, man, his, you just, with broadcasters, and again, it's kind of the crossover from our media to their media, sometimes you wonder what kind of answer you're going to get, especially, Ruocco's got to go to YES Network. He's not going to just bash a player, and he didn't. He's never. But his answer about, like, DJ LeMahieu is, like, the passion of a Yankee fan with the professionalism of a broadcaster is like, oh, yeah, that's why you do this. So Ruocco was awesome. What else do you say?
He's the best. Shaved head. Big-time question about being bald in the winter coming, so tune in for that. I just got my Elias Book of Baseball Records. Yeah. So this is going to change my life for a little bit. How many World Series do you think is the most World Series a single manager has lost? Single manager World Series losses. That was the first page I flipped to, so it's the trivia question.
I'll go 5.
Okay.
Is that without winning? Or is it just who's lost the most?
The person who has lost the most World Series has also won 3.
Okay. So, yeah, I'll say they went 3-6. Corny Mac.
Yeah, you said 5. You changed it to 6, but it is 6.
Okay.
John McGraw for the Yankees.
Wow. Tug's uncle.
Lost in 1911, 1912, 1913, 1917, 1923, and 1924.
Tough, man.
Tug's actually great-grandfather's cousin.
Can't be winning if you're losing.
Ooh! And here's Ryan Ruocco. Ruocco!
We are joined by the thrill from Fishkill, the voice of NCAA women's basketball, the Nets. You see him everywhere, Yankee. It's Ryan Ruocco, our friend. Most importantly, Ryan Ruocco. How you doing, Rooks?
I'm doing good, Jake. I'm just glad that I can be a friend of the show, man. Like that's really, you want to be the guy who like feels like he's actually, when they say that, like actually is, and I feel like I actually am. I'm a friend of the show, right?
I mean, it's got to be your 4th, 5th time sitting down with us. The audience can't see it because it's cropped, but your Christmas tree looks great.
Thank you.
The apartment looks very nice.
Do you want me to show them real quick?
Yeah, tilt it that way a little bit.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Hey.
Very.
There you go.
And
the star's a little crooked, but otherwise, I'm happy with the tree.
I don't want to be too intrusive. Is that a Peloton back there? Are you Peloton
That is. You
gang?
see the little screen?
Oh, yeah. I'm
that tiny screen, man. And you figured it out?
Oh, yeah. I'm Peloton gang now. It's recent. I didn't think I was going to get into it at all, and I'm in, man. Those classes are awesome. They're nuts.
Dude, phenomenal. They're phenomenal. I just love that you can have a mindless cardio that has a lot of variety, because I hate when it's like up to me to go, okay, what do I want to do for cardio? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't know. Like, I like when someone's like, no, this is your 20 minutes. This is your 15 minutes, your 30 minutes, whatever it is, 40 minutes. And we're going to listen to cool music and you're going to be motivated by me and we're going to have fun together. That's pretty great.
That's why on treadmills, I need a treadmill. Otherwise, if I'm like running in the street, I'll just stop running. And then I'll be like, well, nothing's forcing me to do this anymore. So now I'm walking. But I also like choosing the trails that are like, uphill, downhill, because if it was up to me, I'd just walk straight for a mile and be like, I got my mile in and not break a sweat. But I like choosing those paths.
There's something about like the change of scenery, right? That like, that kind of like helps to push you. And so I'm a big fan. I'm a big Peloton fan. I have my instructors I love who are a couple friends. Allie Love, Alex Toussaint.
Oh yeah,
those are my go-tos. But all of them are like I've dabbled with some others as well, and they're all super talented. And it's funny too, just a random aside. But I remember so I've known Allie Love for years because she's host of the Nets games at Barclays Center, and she's like has a variety of successful ventures that she's involved in. And I remember when she was like going to take the Peloton job at the very beginning of this, I was kind of like I honestly was like, is that really like her career's like blowing up? She's like a massive like fitness model for Adidas. She's got the net stuff going. She's doing other sort of like wellness space stuff where she was crushing it. I was like, I don't know, like, because I was just thinking through the prism of like a Soul Cycle instructor kind of. I was like, I don't know. I feel like this woman's on her way to like hosting Good Morning America. Is that the place for it? Well, I was wrong. Like, yes, it was the place for it. She had amazing insight for it. And now I think, the world is her oyster. So, yeah, pretty crazy.
That's where I actually came from the reverse angle. I didn't know she was the Nets in-game person because I hadn't
What's the correct term there?
In-arena host?
In-arena host?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I saw it reverse. So I saw took one of her classes. I was like, you're incredible. And then saw she's got a huge following and everything. And then I think our Keith, who does the Talking Nets stuff, he was like, oh yeah, she's just, the Nets. And I was like, she's flying past that. She's incredible. So
yeah, she's amazing. She is. Allie and I actually did during I think it was May when we did it. We did this Peloton race with different athletes. We did a men's race and a women's race, or I think we called them rides instead of races, but for the men and women on ESPN with at-home equipment and stuff back before sports had opened back up. And Allie and I broadcasted it / hosted it together, which she can do that as well, as you might imagine.
How long ago does that feel like? Because that's, Ryan, I've got one other thing. About a year ago today, I saw you were calling the Nuggets Christmas game in Denver, and just after the game, I gave the tipsy guy from the stands, Ruocco. I think I know who that is.
That's right.
Don't look him in the eye.
That was so funny seeing you there, man. Man, it feels, it's so weird. I know you guys deal with this. All of us have dealt with this, right? But it's so weird when you think about the way time has felt over this last, 9.5 months, because in some ways it's felt like the longest year ever, and in other ways it's gone by like that, and it's how are we this far away from that? I know the Peloton thing I did was over 6 months ago now. 7 months ago that we did that. It's so weird. It's so crazy. Look, in my apartment, I'm broadcasting NBA on ESPN games. It's strange world we're living in, guys, but thank God, we're getting to work again and we're healthy. And right now that's a big blessing and a big win.
When did you start calling, or what was your first call-in games from home like? We talked to Kay over winter meetings, our version of winter meetings, and I was making fun of him or joking. I'm like, would you retire if you had to do that full time? Because at the beginning, he didn't admit it, but he was miserable. He was like, I can't tell where a ball's going. He was very nervous. And then I just made a little video on the Western Kentucky versus Alabama game, and the guys were
oh my gosh.
They were calling it from their home, and they didn't change the score bug, so the announcer's just has no idea what's going on. So how was it for you? Did you run into a lot of what is this? the start?
I think you have to. So my old co-host, Robin Lumberg, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Robin at all, but he first of all the people who I've worked with in this business, I may have learned more from Robin than anybody. He is incredibly smart and just really knows media, and he's a really intelligent and funny guy. And he used to always have this quote he would use where he would say, "Perfect is often the enemy of good." And it's true, right? I mean, we often forget that something can be good because we know it's not perfect. And so I kind of try and see this situation through that prism where, like, I know I'm going to have drawbacks. I know I can't be at my absolute best. Like, I can't, there are certain things restricting that. But do I still think I can be great? Can the broadcast still be great? Yes. And the trade-off is, to me and obviously to my company, worth it at this moment, at a time where, the pandemic is once again, roaring across, the world, but certainly our country, and all those who are, dealing with colder weather climates right now. It's nice to not have to travel, and it's nice to have that added layer of safety and security. And if that means that occasionally, I'm going to call Kent Bazemore Carmelo Anthony, or I'm probably better off using, two guys on the same team. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I think I called. Who did I call? I think I mistook Covington for Melo in my first game. Like, that will happen occasionally, and that's okay. That's I think people get it, and I think for the most part, people can't really tell during the game because our audio is incredible. What they've done with our audio, first of all, I control my own mix. It sounds exactly like it does when I do a game in my headset, except for I have more control, so it's actually even enhanced. And the video is, it's challenging because there's like a staccato to the feed I'm calling it off of. It's not as clean as when I call it off a monitor, like what I'm doing for road games for Nets or what I did for the WNBA in studio in Bristol. This is actually with the at-home feed. It's actually over the internet. So like a fast break turns into sort of like a, almost like you could like jump like from like the foul line. All of a sudden you're at the block, and like it, and even like every shot is, maybe I'll text you a video later, Jimmy, but every shot is just kind of like, there's like a little like lag frame to frame. Yeah. There's a little lag frame to frame. So that's a challenge. I mean, I have to really concentrate calling it, but for the most part, I'm blown away with how good it can be, even with those challenges.
I didn't know. I mean, you're dealing with the lag there. That is hard.
It's not. It's funny, man, because it's like if it was a monitor, if it was the same speed, picture clarity that we get calling off a monitor from studio, calling it at home would be, oh my gosh, absolutely flawless and the greatest thing ever, if you're not going to be able to experience the atmosphere in person, that is. But the actual picture is a lot different. And so, where you may end up running into issues, occasionally you're going to misidentify guys, fast breaks, deflections, like out of bounds. It's harder to be precise with identifying, whereas if I'm at the game, a lot of times I can see something clearly that maybe even the officials didn't, right? Or maybe the game cut wasn't on at the time it happened. Off a monitor, I could still see things incredibly clearly and perhaps even see something the officials didn't see. Now, obviously, I'm really only seeing the game cut for the most part, but I still might be able to pick up on something. With this, super hard to be that specific. Like on a fast break, you're going to have to be more general. Like block shots, telling who blocked a shot because of the lag time frame to frame, really difficult. But like, can you call around it? You can make it work, and for right now, I think it's the smart, safe thing to do. And it's a challenge. And, and when we go back to the old way, it's going to feel like the easiest thing in the world after doing this. And the cool thing is too, guys, like our technical people at ESPN have been amazing. Like if I have a question, our ops and technical people, I have a question. They are back to me in seconds with an answer. So and they're working, they want the feedback. So they're working on ways to reduce that lag, frame to frame But even still, like this, we can totally call it. We can still be great at it because of all the work they put into it. But it's definitely challenging. Yeah.
Is there a producer in your ear, or official scorer or scorekeeper in your ear? Are you getting multiple? Because like, live time when you're sitting there, it's very easy for you to tell that's the producer. That's, my network, my host, what booth mate, basically. But how do you tell? Do you have multiple people in your ear that all sound the same?
No. So the audio setup, somehow they have routed it exactly the same. Eddie Acuno, who's our unbelievable head mastermind engineer behind this at ESPN, came up with, and his colleagues came up with this incredible audio system where I literally, the producer in my ear sounds exactly like he does when I'm at the game. The analyst might be slightly different than at a game, but for the most part the same. I even have a button now to be able to communicate directly with my researcher, which I don't even have when I'm at the game. It's all note cards at the game. And for the most part, we've been using Whiteboard and Zoom for this, or Zoom chat. But I actually could talk with him directly and he could talk to me if we wanted to. And I've talked back to everybody. I've talked back to my analysts, which again, I don't normally have at my game. I've talked back to my producers. And I can literally manipulate the dial so that it's just in one ear or it's in both ears. Same thing with the natural sound, the effects. I can change that. So if I want to hear the sneakers, the rims more. So audio wise, it's actually amazing. I don't have a single tweak audio wise. It's incredible. The only thing that's a challenge is, accurately identifying and keeping up with the video because of the lag. But audio wise, it is absolutely incredible. I would call it flawless and maybe even enhanced from what we normally have.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing.
A while ago, maybe your second time when you joined us, I was enthralled with your note-taking on the vanilla envelopes in Inside and Out. When CeCe joins you for the game, is he asking you for advice, or is he looking at you being like, man, you do all that? I'm not doing any of it.
I think he, one thing that's super appreciated by me is CeCe always really respects my work that I put into broadcast, even for our podcast. And he also very much likes that he doesn't have to do that part of things,
Yeah.
And he has a real natural gregariousness on air. And, this just incredibly, I think, likable, unique personality. And he can't be taught, and I think the setup's best when he could just go in and be himself, right? And there are things where he's like, yo, we got to hit on this or whatever, but he always talks about oh man, I could just sit back and do my thing because Rye's got that, and so he has that faith in me, which I appreciate. And so for the game, I think that there was definitely, and CeCe expressed this afterwards as well, there was definitely a comfort level knowing he had me there. And then he had Sarah as well, who Sarah Kustak's the most welcoming, likable, fun human in the world. So she was amazing with bringing CeCe in. And he was, he was nervous. He talked about it he was like, man, I'm so nervous, going into it. So, we tried to give him just the be yourself talk, because that's really all that mattered. And what was amazing to me is literally, I feel 3 minutes into the game, he settled into being CeCe Sabathia, the hilarious, just incredibly authentic, natural dude on air that we all love. And he was great. I was blown away with how good he was, because you'd even think with certain mechanics, maybe he'd struggle a little bit or whatever. It's his first time doing something like that. He was great. He fit in so seamlessly, and he knew where to add, he knew where to react. He had some humor. He had a really funny line about when Karis LeVert got knocked down, and he's like, Karis, don't worry, they ain't calling fouls out here today. He was just his normal self. And Marcus Smart had a foul before the inbound, away from the play foul, where you get one shot in the ball, and we see the replay, and he just clearly hugs, I think it was Durant or Taurean Prince before the inbound. And CeCe's no, see, Marcus just wanted to see if there was anything they would call. It was he really has some great lines and just this natural feel. So I was proud of him because I know how nerve-wracking it can be to step into something new, even if it's what you do. Every single time I do something for the first time, right? First Yankee game on TV, first, filling in for John, first Yankee game on radio, first NBA on ESPN game, first women's college game, which I did recently. Like, I'm always nervous, even though it's like a thing I do and I do a lot of. I'm always nervous for that first thing. This is a first thing for him and not something he does, and he just knocked it out of the park, man. I was so proud of him.
His personality plays anywhere. Yeah. I think that's that. I know this has been a lot of a production podcast so far, but Jimmy could talk that stuff all day, and we're in the world. I mean, what was the conversation about CC cussing a little bit? Because we knew one was coming, and it's fine. But are you guys placing side bets? Is it just
there's some rumors out there that there's some rumors that it came after 10 o'clock, which TV changes, and maybe they were like, it's okay, CC. Any truth to that?
I will tell you that CC and Amber had a bet. Amber bet CC, I think it was for $1,000, that he would cuss at some point, and CC said he wouldn't, and Amber won that bet. And it was so funny because obviously on R2C2, it's like part of the natural feel of what makes it authentic because it's very much a part of his casual vernacular, right? And as soon as it happened on the air at the game, and we're sitting in our own little plexiglass booths, and it's Sarah to my right, and then CC on the other side, and he cusses, and we look, and CC goes, "Oh, my," you could say he felt awful, and it's funny because on the podcast there would be obviously no reaction.
No reaction, yeah.
Natural. But you could tell he felt terrible. But gratefully, which I think was appropriate, the bosses at YES instead focused on, rightfully so, how great he was. And they were so pleased with his performance, as they should have been. So they were able to kind of, I think, chalk up the cuss to a charming moment that we know to be part of his repertoire.
Now, is this something CC wanted? Did he reach out to you and to YES? Did you and YES reach out to him? We know. I mean, he started a podcast on his way out of being an active player, so he wants to stay in there. And he was doing NFL stuff on ESPN,
NFL
Network. But he's always said he's not wearing a suit.
Yep.
To talk sports now. He does change his rule for basketball to baseball. So I guess did he approach YES? Be like, yo, put me on a game?
No, he didn't. But so first of all, with the suit thing, what's funny is I think also nobody's really gotten to see CC in person, obviously because of COVID. But when you see him in person, you're gonna be like, what? He is totally transformed. You've gotten to see it in photos, but when you see it in person, you're going to be like, this dude isn't even close to overweight anymore.
His trainer sends us videos a lot of them in the gym.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Dave Palladino. Yeah. It's ridiculous. So I think there's a part of him that was jacked up to put on a suit.
Look all nice.
He's looking good.
Yeah. He's looking good, man. But his philosophy was in baseball, it's hot out. I don't want to be wearing a suit on a summer day. And then he's like, and I can't put on a corny polo, so
I'm with him.
That's his thing. I think if he could wear any kind of polo, he'd be cool with that. Or if it was, I think you could get him. Now I feel like I could get him in a suit for a cold weather baseball game, maybe.
Okay.
He might contest that, but I think he would.
Well, there's many suits now that feel like sweats. Lululemon is basically changing the game, and all these companies are that's suit pants. This feels like sweatpants, so it's getting better.
Exactly. I'm wearing Lululemon pants right now. Exactly, man. 100%. So I feel like that could be done. But basketball, he was I think it's just something too, right? When you go sit courtside, you dress up, so. I think he was into it, but no, he's always had interest in doing, I think, different things in media. I think he would be an amazing color commentator on baseball games. And maybe someday he'll dabble in that, but I don't think that excites him the way that doing some outside the box sort of things excite him. And being able to kind of carve his own niche, not to speak for him, but I think there are a lot more elements than just calling baseball games that drive him and that he's enthusiastic about. So Yes actually came to me and said like, hey, do you think he'd be interested in doing something like this? I know he thinks kind of outside the box. He's become a Nets fan. He loves KD. He knows basketball. We think it'd be fun. It's a preseason game, so there's not a lot of pressure. And I was like, yeah, as long as Sarah's there too, I think he'd love it and be great at it. And so then they wanted me to just see, what Cece said. And so I brought it up to Cece, and he was like, yeah, man, I'd do that if I'm doing it with you and Sarah. Absolutely, I'd love to. And so then they connected and figured it out. And there was some talk of him maybe doing it from home, like the Studio 21 Paul O'Neill setup. But Cece really wanted to be on site with us, and I'm glad he was, because I think it made it a lot easier to interact. It's one thing when you're Paul and you have a million reps with Michael and David, right? It's another thing when you're coming into something totally new. Like if it was just me and Cece doing a pod, that's different, but a new venture. So I think it was great to have him there, and he had a blast. He loved it. He could not have had a better time.
Well, we want to talk some Yanks with you, but before we leave the Sabathia realm, because they do hook you in, and little ad, R2C2. Amber today came on, our producer BBD listened to it on the way, and I'm listening on the ride home. But my favorite Marcus Stroman quote ever is he references Amber and says she's the realist, and I love that. So how awesome was that? And I'm sure a lot of our listeners have tuned in or are about to tune in as well.
Yeah, I think we have a good crossover, listenership, which we should do some kind of crossover home and home or something.
We were about to, and then COVID hit.
Then COVID hit. Yeah, I know. We were literally about to do that, but we should do that again. Well, either maybe we wait till we could do it in person, or maybe we do it like this. Whatever. We should do it for sure, because Cece's a fan of you guys as well, just like I am. But Amber was amazing. She is. She's the realist. Marcus is right. And, I think what's cool about the pod is like we really got in depth, and which is something that's addressed on the documentary that comes out Tuesday night on HBO as well, about his alcoholism. We really dove into that, and Amber gave the perspective of, her conversations with Cece, and even like the decision to do it when he did it. And their conversation about that, kind of keeping the family together during that period, and how it opened Cece up to being, really comfortable in his skin and his authentic self. And so there was some heavy emotional stuff we got into, in which Amber provided just incredible insight. And then there was, fun stuff about them first meeting and dating, how they both had other significant others at the time they started hanging out in high school, and some of the fun elements of that. And then just navigating, baseball, Major League Baseball as a wife, also as one of the few Black women who were in that family room, and the different challenges of that as well. And then like what's to come. Like Amber's an EP of the doc you're going to see on HBO Tuesday night.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's sick. I mean, she literally, like, she's amazing. Everything she touches turns to gold. And she's fun and she's smart. So I think people are going to get a kick out of it. And she obviously has a different level of insight into Cece.
Are they East Coasters now?
I think so. Yeah. It's funny because Cece has so enjoyed, being home during this COVID period. He's like, I never really got to enjoy Jersey suburbs before in my house, and like, he loves it. Yeah. I think I'm curious what'll happen if Lil C's getting a lot of attention baseball wise from different schools, some of them out west. And so I'm curious what will happen if he's playing out west. I think Dad's going to have a hard time not being there a lot for games, Yeah,
so, you do. Constant road trips.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious what will happen then. But yeah, I think they're all in on Jersey living until at least the kids are done and out of school. And and Carter, the youngest, is 10. So they still got some time here for sure.
As someone from the East Coast who moved to the Bay Area and now moved back, I love when people move out here and then stay. They're like, I like this more. Just have a little like competitiveness in me. Like, yeah, hell yeah. I actually just moved into. I just found out that my neighbor's house, Mel Stoudemire, lived there during seasons.
Really?
When he was the coach. Yeah.
Oh, that's sick, man.
Yeah.
That's sick. Are you in the burbs now?
Yeah,
Jimmy,
right over the George Washington Bridge. Not Fort Lee, right next to Fort Lee. But we like it. I needed to get out of this.
That's city. Great. Dude, I totally get it. I feel that same pride. You know, I'm from New York. I've lived here. You know, I've lived either in Dutchess County, the Bronx, or Manhattan my entire life. And I have such pride in that too. Like, it's like, yeah, we stole one.
Yeah.
You know, like I love it. I love it when I don't need the sunshine.
Especially California, because they think they think it's the best place ever, and then you're like, oh, well, how about this? You like that?
Oh, it's true. Like what I always say about New York is it's the one place where I definitively feel like these are my people. You know, like no matter, you know, where I've been or how beautiful it is. And I could definitely be tempted with different climates for sure, you know, but the people here, I don't know. There's just something about the people here that I just love. I love it. It's like, there's this like, to use Marcus Stroman's thing, right? There's this incredible realness to.
That's what I always say.
Yeah. Like,
there's no surface level. Everyone is who they are right away.
Yeah.
You don't need to get to know anyone. Like, you're an asshole or you're nice, and you tell me right away.
Exactly. And it extends beyond just like the city, right? And the 5 boroughs. It's like a tri-state area thing.
New Jersey's full of characters. Basically like a cartoon state.
Yeah. And you know, whether if you're in Connecticut, you're in Westchester, or even a little further north of that, like, yeah, I mean, it's really there's just something about it where I'm like, yeah, these are my people. So I'm with you, Jimmy. Right. Score one for us.
Got him. And I love the snow. I'm so happy that we got a nice storm before Christmas.
Dude, you know what I did yesterday? I actually went sleigh riding with my mom and dad.
Really?
Wow.
Yes. This is something I haven't done in probably, I'm 34. I probably haven't done it since like my early 20s. We used to snowmobile a lot when I was a kid. And I was at my parents' house for a couple days. And we, like my little nephews had just been there, and they were sledding, and the sleds were still out. And I was like, you know what? I haven't played in the snow in a really long time. I really want to play in the snow. And like, so I went out, and then all of a sudden my dad was like, you know what, I'll come. And then my wife was like, Debbie, why don't you should go with them, go. So we all went sledding together. It was like being 5 again. It was amazing.
Making Hallmark cards over there. I love it. How'd the head do in the cold? Is this your first time bald-headed winter? This
is my first bald-headed winter. It's
label it that way.
Yeah, it's you know what's interesting though is it's like every once in a while I'll like get that, I'll like remember like, oh, I got to put something on this out here. Like it's good. It's going to get chilly. But then other times you think you have to put something on it. And like I walked today for a while, and you know, it's like sunny and like 45 or something. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, I can't, like, this is getting too hot. Like I'm sweating under here. You know what I mean? Like it's okay to let her fly today. So I'm finding that balance.
Did you see Stucko flaunting his hair?
No. What did he do?
Oh my God.
Stucco's actually
full bowl of lettuce.
We love Stucco.
Really? I'm going to see him in Stamford tomorrow because we're doing big Nets pre and post game stuff on Yes, and then we're doing a ton of social media takeover stuff during the Nets opener. Sarah Cusack and I are going to be doing that. So I'm going to see Stucco there, one of our masters of all things digital at Yes. But I haven't seen his hair yet. Are you pulling up a picture, Jimmy?
Yeah, because I took it just to send to Jake. What's up, Stucco, if you're listening? Because I was like, look at this. This is crazy.
Flostradamus.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. He's just letting it flow.
2020, baby.
Dude, I think back, and like there was a time where I had like beautiful curly hair, and for some reason I felt compelled to like gel it up, heavy gook, you know, and like
talking to the right guy.
Yeah, man, like I clogged those pores for sure. And, you know, I don't know if it would have just happened this way anyway, but I didn't give myself the best chance. You know, like I could have had a better shot, and I didn't enjoy it when I could have. Like I was trying to change it instead of enjoy it. And I could have just let it fly without a brush. And I think it probably was beautiful, and I didn't realize it until it was too late, guys.
We talked to Passon on our winter meetings. He takes pills.
He's juicing.
He's
PD. He's taking finasteride,
something like
which
that.
is
it looks good though.
Yeah, it's oh my gosh. Oh,
he gave us the whole recipe. We could look it up because I'm starting to get a little monkey patch back here that I'm worried about.
Well, but you're Jake. How old are you now?
I'm 31.
Dude, if you're just dealing with a little patch at 31, that ain't bad, man. You've already won.
I already had a pretty good run, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, you're in the black for life, man. I'm sorry. Like there's no doubt. But it's gosh, whoever's listening right now is probably saying it's like a very common drug. I think I gave the technical term for it, finasteride, but it's
there's Propecia and there's like knockoff, yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah. Propecia. But you know, I know a lot of people who've used Propecia and they have great results, like amazing results. I just know myself, and I never I have hair. I am bald back here, but I have hair otherwise all here.
Yeah.
You know? But I am like, I just knew myself, and I'm like, I can't take a pill every day and not like have it in my head, like about like, you know, like I'm a
nice shapely head too. It's all
clean.
Rounded. It's perfect. Wife likes it. You're set.
I agree.
No maintenance.
My wife loves it. I've honestly like, I could not feel better about it. So I'm pumped about it. Now, if I had like gorgeous locks, you know, like that'd be different. But if I'm trying to spackle shit together anyway, like, you know what? Might as well just let it fly when you got a nice shaped dome, right? So let's go.
Looks great.
Beautiful.
We got to talk some Yanks. I also want to
Yanks.
talk you and the Yanks. Obviously, because of COVID and the weird season, you didn't get to call any Yankee games last year. They just stuck with Michael and Paulie from the basement and Coney.
Yeah.
I mean, that sucks for you. But
you want to talk about
that? Like, obviously, understandable.
You know, it's funny, man, because like it did suck. You know, like it did. I was grateful that they still got me involved in studio. You know, a few different ways, and even got to do a playoff game. And I really, you know, I got to be involved in the summer training shows a lot too, but I tried to take the approach of it's such a weird year, you know, and there's so many different reasons for that. Like I knew it wasn't because they didn't want me on the games, you know, like everybody was thrilled with what happened in 2019 as, you know, was I, not with the circumstances that, you know, made me have to do games, but I was thrilled with the way the actual games went. And so, yeah, I mean, it wasn't awesome not getting to do any games this year, like for sure. But it wasn't something that I was like, you know, stomping my feet over or whatever. I had told my boss and the John Filippelli in the beginning, I was like, hey man, like this is a weird year. Yeah. Like everybody's dealing with a million things. I totally get it. I want to do games, but however I can help the network, you let me know and I'm game. And that's the way this year was, you know, and I feel like we just all kind of had to accept that, you know, like John Flaherty should have been doing games too, right? Like, it's just like COVID presents weird challenges, you know, and especially at the time that the baseball season was happening as well, right? Like right now you may have felt a little more comfortable with like some, you know, interchangeable parts or mixing pieces a little bit or getting things down. But at that point it was a real challenge. How are we just getting these games on the air, and how are we getting people comfortable with the technology? And so while, you know, it wasn't fun to not get to do games, it also was something where I totally understood why.
Do they have a plan for 2021 yet? I mean, are they waiting for the schedule to get released first?
Schedule's out.
Well, maybe they might delay it a month or whatever. I'm guessing you're back in the mix.
I know you you guys have heard that too, right? As far as like, who knows? Maybe it gets delayed, maybe it doesn't.
It's going to be a messy fight again.
Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, I just want to say this, like, on the whole, okay? Both sides need to figure it out, okay? To me, it's not enough to be right. You have to find a way to produce dialogue that bridges gaps and that convinces the other side of what you need and what you can give. And I know that's much easier said than done. I'm intimately familiar with negotiating CBAs because my father has been a lead negotiator for the NFL in that regard for 34 years. I know how difficult it can be. But I think for baseball, I sometimes don't think they realize how dire the stakes are for them to clean it up. Both sides. They're going to kill the golden goose if they don't figure it out. Now, I will say, there's also the element of we get things in real time in today's media and especially social media. And some of the negotiating steps that always have happened now feel like more trademark moments because we're hearing about them and they're being amplified and magnified. So I get that. But I just want there to be, like, I want Major League Baseball and the Players Association to realize that it is of paramount importance for both of them to come to some sort of, agreement here, because the sport is not in a place where I think it'd be good for it to have any kind of extended delay. And, we don't know right now, to answer your question, like how the games will be broadcast. I think, a lot of it depends on what ends up happening with the vaccine, when the season starts, how things are at. Right now, probably the safe bet would be we call games at home from the booth, on the road from studio, or like they did last year from Yankee Stadium off monitors. But maybe that changes, during the season. Maybe if you're vaccinated, you get to travel. Maybe, maybe they're, with the increased rapid testing, you get to travel. Or maybe it's you get to go to local cities, but, go to ALE cities, but not others, NLE cities, but not others. I think that right now it's still so fluid that, you could use the fallback as home, you're home, road, you're off a monitor, and then see if you can expand it as you get closer.
God, I mean, some of those sentences, it just makes you remember how real everything is, that it's like, well, if you're vaccinated, maybe you can travel, and it's like, wow.
Yeah. And that's just me speculating, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, do we get to that place, right, where it's like, it's almost like a passport of sorts for, doing things, I don't know. I mean, I think the good thing is, like, you figured out a way to do it, right? You figured out a way to get the games on the air, you figured out a way to have the season, and we should have way more tools at our disposal to make all of that easier this year. And I hope that we're on the road for those games, but maybe we won't be right away. Maybe we will be a little later. Health and safety is going to still take priority.
And everything you said about MLB and MLBPA is so true, too. I know me and Jimmy, we joked on Talkin' Baseball for a while that we were a labor pod, because that's literally what we talked about. And it's insane, and you hope one of the sides at some point is able to put down the swords and have a conversation, because that's kind of all we ask. From the Yankees' perspective, you're around the same age as us. You grew up with the core four, and I know I say this a lot, but it's something that we've cycled through, especially growing up on the lunch tables, where it's like, we used to hear the Yankees pay for their players, and it's like, well, actually, those core guys, they're pretty good. They came up through the org, and then, Boston started getting good. They've got the high salary, won't even go there. The DJ LeMahieu, he's the free agent. There was some Blue Jay rumors today where, we're hearing he wants to be with the Yankees, and, it checks all the boxes. He's been great here. He wants to win. This is dramatic. Do you think that the LeMahieu signing or not signing is kind of indicative of the Yankees going forward? Because, I mean, it is true. In any years past, if DJ had performed like he had for the past 2 years, you're coming back, son. We'll figure out the math. And now it does seem, the Yankees are a business.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are real financial implications to what happened this past season, and I think that most teams in Major League Baseball, if not all, are going to be, really careful about where they spend their money, because it's just not a money-making business without fans. It's not, not in its current, model, not with its current salaries, and so there are, teams that lost a lot of money. And, as a business, I'm sure that goes into, the thought process behind any decisions moving forward, especially with some uncertainty for this coming season. However, I also think that in this particular case, you want to be careful not to overthink it. And you also want to have respect for the process, right? So I'll deal with the respect for the process first. DJ LeMahieu is a free agent. The Yankees obviously want him back. They're not trying to be so coy that they're not saying that, right? They're openly saying, Brian Cashman saying, he's our number one priority. We're trying to get it done. And that is them trying to show the respect for a player they want, right? They're not looking to anger him. They're just also not looking to pay money that no one else is going to pay just for the sake of it, right? They're not looking to pay a Yankee tax because they're the Yankees and they can afford it, right? They're looking to pay what this current market is dictating. And I don't think there's anything wrong with them going about it that way, and trying to get a feel for the landscape. Having said that, I also think you want to, at the same time, be careful that you don't lose him, because losing him would be a massive mistake. Now, I've seen people try and justify, like, well, if you ended up trading for Francisco Lindor, then it's okay. No, it's not okay. It's not okay to lose DJ LeMahieu. DJ LeMahieu has been the best player on the New York Yankees for 2 straight seasons. This is a team that wants to win a championship. The reason you've allocated the money you have to Garrett Cole is to win a title. Mm-hmm. If you take away DJ LeMahieu, your chances of winning a title go down significantly. And now all of a sudden that investment in Garrett Cole is not as significant a one as it should be, right? Because you've given him a much worse chance of winning a championship. This is a guy who is a plus at 3 defensive positions, who literally fits in perfectly with the culture, with the atmosphere, with the grind in New York, the media. He fits perfectly with how it comes to, when you talk about just the pressure of playing in New York, the October moments, hitting good pitching, the ballpark. This guy, I apologize for the sirens here.
All good.
It adds to the drama, man. This is beautiful.
They want DJ LeMahieu, but in all seriousness, he's the perfect Yankee, and he's perfect for this team right now. So you can't lose him. Period. The end. You can't lose him. But I understand doing everything you can until it gets to that point of trying to get him at your best price. So walk that line, and at the end of the day, do what you have to get him, because losing him would be a big mistake that you will end up trying to make up for in ways that won't be as efficient as just cutting him whatever check you have to.
I think Cash is getting sick of bidding against himself, and all these teams, and especially Boris guys, using the Yankees as leverage. And that's why when Bryce Harper was a free agent, Cash came out and said, we're not interested. Yeah. We're not even making an offer. And Boris's camp was like, what the hell? You can't do that because now you're ruining. And Cash is like, well, don't use me as a chip. And then with Garrett Cole last year, the Yankees went above and beyond the Angels offer. Yeah. They made the Yankees bid against themselves at the last second. And then, 10 hours later, the next day, it came out, the second offer wasn't even close. And Cash is probably like, okay, so we bid against ourselves. So I think that's why, and it's kind of like what you said with the CBA negotiating. This usually happens. It's just happening as a headline now.
Yes.
Whereas it's like, the Yankees aren't going to go for 5 years, 100. Well, because they don't think anyone else is going to offer that. Now, if he goes to the Blue Jays and they offer him 5 years, 100, well, now the Yankees may go 5 years, 100. Yeah. But I think it's very much Cash is sick of having to bid against himself for these guys.
And I'm fine with that. Yeah. That's my bottom line. I don't think anything the Yankees have done at this point with the negotiations is something that is troubling or worrisome at all. In fact, I think it's the opposite, right? Like if they had been more coy publicly when talking about their desire for DJ LeMahieu, I would be saying, like, come on, that's overthinking it, guys. Like, there's no need for that. But they've been incredibly expressive and honest, and I think that's great. And so now if it's like, hey, what you just said, Jimmy, we're not going to bid against ourselves. Like, we will pay what the market is to make sure we keep them, but we're not going to, set the market. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, that's fine. If it's, I mean, I saw you guys come up with the compromise. Maybe it was you, Jimmy, or maybe it was you, Jake, or both of you. But like the, 4 years, 75 option for a 50 or something like that. You know what? They should be able to come to agreement on that. DJ wants New York. New York wants DJ. He's a perfect player at the right time, perfect fit. But I agree. I don't think there's any reason to cut that check until you realize you're gonna lose him if you don't.
Exactly. And that's why would you make the first offer for your cash? Like, DJ has publicly said that he wants to come back too. So they're going to be that. Yeah. The worry is, do they get anyone else? Because, we had a question from a caller the other day, are the Yankees going to upgrade from the 2020 team? And it doesn't seem like they're going to upgrade from the 2020 team because the priority now is trying to stay the same as the 2020 team in a way if you can get DJ back and Tanaka back, but you're still losing Paxton, who got injured, but there's some good starts in there. Hap did have a decent year last year after the first 2 starts. Like, is there any other moves? Because besides health and your fingers crossed Sevy and Domingo coming back and being ready for the playoffs, the Yankees really aren't in a big position to upgrade the team from 2020 to 2021, which is a very interesting way to look at it. There's a big possibility they downgrade if they don't get DJ back. But if they get him back, really it's kind of just status quo plus health.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I would like to see Tanaka back because there's reliability in the rotation. I would like to see, some sort of boost to the rotation, but it's a weird year. And so to me, the most important thing is LeMahieu. You bring back LeMahieu, I think you got a real good shot just with that group, But if I was going to say positionally, if there was a way to finagle something, what would be my biggest goal would to be getting more athletic at shortstop, and having Glaber play second. And I don't know how exactly you make that work because, it's hard. Let's assume Gio's back. Gio's proven he's a guy you want to play every day, right? And DJ, you want to play every day. You can move him around. But, the idea of Stanton not being able to play the outfield means the Luke, Stanton sort of duplication hamstrings your ability to play Glaber somewhere other than short, right? And so it's interesting because, like, on face value, especially seeing the way the team was playing, I think at the time they were going into the playoffs, I think you could run it back, feel great about your chances to win a championship. If you're looking to improve beyond internal growth, individual growth from these guys, Gary having a better year, Glaber having a better year, maybe, Davey or, Schmidt or some of these other guys contributing, it's not easy to find those spots without losing an asset that you really feel good about, and that's what's tough.
It really is crazy. Because, you can imagine, when we do calls and everyone wants Lindor and it's who are we trading, what is it? To connect the dots you just did is it's exactly what we've done because it's like, okay, so who are the value trade guys? It's like, well, Luke Voigt's value's at an all-time high, but he was also the guy. Like, he was out there every day last year, and he's cheap. Gio Urshela, same thing. He was one of the most important dudes on the team last year, and then it's like Clint, who could be a star in his own right that he's battled through so much that it's I don't know if Cashman does pull something out, it's going to be real Cashman magic this year because it's not obvious.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, I think when 2017 was done, like, it was easy for me to tell, and I'm sure it was easy for you guys to tell, like, they're not going to win the title with Starlin Castro at second, right? Like, that was an obvious spot where it's like they need something different there. No respect to Starlin, who actually had a very good year. Yeah. But going through October, you could kind of tell, like, that's a spot that's going to have to upgrade for them to get over the hump. We need a different style hitter. we need someone who has, a little bit more range defensively, whatever it might be, right? We could tell. With this team, it's not obvious to say like, oh, well, what they really need to do is they need to find a way to get rid of Stanton. Well, are you sure? Because like that guy was their best hitter in the playoffs, they really need to find a way to get rid of Luke so that they can move Gleyber to second and put, DJ at first. Are you sure you want to get rid of the guy who was, in the running for AL MVP last year and grinding it out on a bad foot, and is at a good value cost right now? To your point, right? Like there isn't a guy who you say like, no, they clearly can't be a part of the solution. Like there's not one guy who I look at and I say, they're not going to be a part of the solution. That makes it tough to make moves because, it's a good thing, right? Because those guys all have value. But it makes it tricky as to where you upgrade.
Something that we ran into in the playoffs that is like, it's a very odd thought, but the more I think about it, the more I think it's true. And this isn't the infield alignment. Gleyber had a tough year at shortstop. Gio's amazing. When Gio went to the shift and played short, he was still pretty good. Now he's not going to be a top-tier defenseman, but I do think DJ at third, Gio at short, Gleyber at second, Luke Voit at first in the playoffs last year would have been a better defensive alignment. Gleyber was really scary at short.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know. It's so hard it's hard to evaluate because you have to see it's just a completely different position.
I know.
Right?
And he's not going to be top tier, but Gleyber was bottom tier.
But then are you getting worse overall if you do that, right? Because are you losing are you losing the Are you getting worse at third?
Yes.
And not second. That better, much better at short and worse at second. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's not a long-term solution. But going into the playoffs last year, the fact that we were rattling that around wasn't like a good rattle.
Hey, it's hard. It's hard to win a championship when you don't feel like everyone's a two-way guy. I know that feels almost greedy, but like if you think about it, I always think about the Mets-Royals World Series in 2015 when going into it, I was like, at some point, I know the fact that they have a couple guys out in the field that you feel are really shaky, it's going to cost them, right? And eventually it did with Murphy at second and who was the Duda at first,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you knew that, I don't know if Gleyber's quite in that place. Like I feel much better about him than I did those guys, but he'll need to play better there. Like it's funny because in the stretch he played short when Didi was out, I was like, all right, you know what? Gleyber looks good. He's way better than I thought, But last year, I think we saw the shakiness, and so he needs to get better there in order for you to not feel like you're covering something up with him there.
Yeah, and that's kind of it's why it's a weird Yankee offseason. Like the LeMahieu thing, it just feels like it's going to happen until it doesn't, which then, would open up a whole can of worms and make this a crazy offseason. But yeah, it's just, it's everything you said. Gary, it can't be that Gary. Gleyber at shortstop, he's still so young. Like, can those Cashman quotes twist the knife enough that he can improve there? Clint every day, and then Clark and Davey, man. Those are the other wild cards, right? Because you look at the starting rotation and you say, if you can flip one of those guys for a bona fide stud, we say that's awesome. But if one of those two guys is a stud, they can be a stud for the next 6-7 years. So it's I don't know. It's kind of this sit on your hands and just see who comes out better.
I know it's interesting because it's true. Ultimately their offense was healthy then in the playoffs, right? So you could look at some things internally and say, okay, Gleyber will have a better regular season, which I think we all would expect, right? Mm-hmm. Like Judge will play more of the regular season, which we obviously would hope and expect. Sanchez could be better. So there's some internal improvement things, but how many of those are different than in the playoffs? Because Gleyber was a beast in October, as he's been. Judge was still, even though his overall average wasn't what we wanted to be in the playoffs, he still had some big hits, right? In October. And so Gary improving could be something, but Higashioka actually, it's not like that position was a minus in the playoffs. He played well, so yeah, I mean,
I think overall the catching, even when Kratzy subbed in and he was good, I think the overall catching numbers aren't terrible, which is wild.
Yeah, right. I mean, I guess the one area where you could end up feeling better is if there's 2 or 3 arms in the pen that you end up feeling confident in and have that trust. And maybe that's really all that needs to be changed, right? Maybe that's actually the area, because that was a strength forever, and last year really wasn't for them. And so maybe that's the area where you can make some moves that aren't that costly, that shore things up, and everything else you can run back and you have enough. And that may be enough.
There's a lot of relievers out there to grab too, which...
Yeah, there is. Because I still think, if they don't do what they did with the opener, I still think they probably win that series.
Yeah,
and then I think they probably win the ALCS. Maybe they don't beat the Dodgers, but are we looking at this and then just saying okay, they're 1 or 2 more trusted late inning relievers away from being a title team? Because you also would have to think the top of your rotation is going to get better at some point when you get Sevy.
Yeah, hopefully he comes back. I keep saying the top line for all the options at starter could be good,
Yeah,
could
for
be
sure.
Good, but and I think they're going to do a grab bag of guys, Kluber, Garrett Richards, I keep saying. Some of these Felix, minor league invites, and just trying to get depth.
Get some innings.
Yeah.
No,
we'll see.
That makes sense. Would you guys like to see the season start on time, or would you guys like to see, if they told you start April 1st with 25% fans, okay? Something like that. Or you could start May 15th with 75% fans. Which one would you choose?
April 1st. I was ready to say business brain wants April 1st, but fan, and I was like, wait, no, both want April 1st.
Yeah.
Just give me more baseball.
Yeah.
I don't go to a lot of games anyway.
I do. I know. I want as many games as possible. I really do. But I get it. I get the idea. See, even the NBA, their season time is a little bit different. But if there had been an obvious moment where it was if we just wait till this date, we're going to have fans in the stands, they might have waited, because
if there's
of
a for
what it means
certain
to the
line, I get it.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously it's hard to predict when that would be anyway. So it's you're almost better off just navigating as soon as you can, which is what the NBA ultimately decided, and maybe where baseball lands. But I get the temptation when you go from, the financial ramifications of having fans to not.
I obviously have no real knowledge here, smart, just a hunch or guess. I'm of the thought process that once civilization and society goes back to normal and the vaccine hits, I think every live event's going to get sold out. I think people are going to go on vacations. I think everyone's just going to flock. I actually saw a viral tweet the other day. It was so this is why the 1920s were so lively and everyone was going out all the time, because they just got over the Spanish flu or whatever the hell it was. I think that if there's a day and it's okay, you can go to sporting events in full capacity, I think people are going to be flocking to just get out and do anything.
I mean, the Roaring '20s actually did. They were the child of, getting over the Spanish flu,
the war and the flu. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that's 100% true. I tend to agree too. I think the moment that people think they are individually protected, they will open things back up, right? And so, yes, it takes a while after you have, the vaccine, right? After the vaccine is distributed, everybody starts getting it. It takes a while for that to have the kind of sort of suppressive effect on the overall numbers of cases, right? You need it to be in the population for a while, see those cases plummet, and then it's just basically not in the community at any sort of, significant level where there's a significant risk, right? So that usually happens months after everybody is inoculated, not right when they're inoculated. But I do think that individually, people, for the most part, are going to take it. Once they get that second dose, they're going to say, hey, I feel pretty good about my chances. I'm ready to open back up, And And so, yeah, I mean, I think at some point in the summer, we're going to have like people very excited about doing, all the things that they've missed during this 9-month, year, 15-month period, whatever ends up being.
All of the things.
Then we'll do the crossover Talkin' Yanks R2C2 live event.
Man, don't you guys miss like having guests in person? Like,
yeah. Well, that was the whole reason we're in the studio in the Bronx. So, like, players coming or going from games could just come in here and chill. We didn't get anyone. Have we had a guest in here? Zero, right?
No.
Just people that work here.
I mean, it feels rude to ask. Like, we're not going to ask you swing by the office. Like, no. Like, we don't know where Big Baby David's been, you know?
Dude, I totally get it, man. I totally get it. It's right. You can't. I mean, Rogan has people in studio, but they all test.
Yes.
Like they have a nurse on site, and she swabs them, and you have to record a negative before you can come in and whatever. And like, but otherwise, if you don't have those resources, which obviously most of us don't, but I miss that. As much as we've gotten good at this, there is something different to the like energy and conversation and the ability to like slightly talk over each other, but still comprehend what the other one's saying. Like, I can't wait for that, for whenever we get to that time period, hopefully sometime in the not too distant future.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think we'll get there. And then the first game, it'd be cool if they like did a gradual build, like 20% capacity, 30, 40, and then playoffs come and they're like, all right, 100%, and that first playoff game's just like bam.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You know what? I remember I had Bob Kraft on my radio show years ago with Stephen A. And we were talking about the challenges of continuing to put fans in the stands when the TV product kept getting better and better, especially NFL specific, right? You could be out in the cold watching one game, or you could be at home eating whatever you want, going to your own bathroom, watching Red Zone, right? Or watching every game. And he talked about, he's like, yes, but it's one of the few places where you can still experience the energy of this shared common experience. Mm-hmm. And there's something about being human and feeling that energy that you just can't duplicate and that you crave, no matter what you have at your fingertips. And I think we all probably have an even better appreciation for that now and can't wait to experience that again in stadiums.
Yeah, definitely. Shared experiences is like something that everyone craves. You don't even realize it. You'd be sitting on the bus with someone and like something weird happens and you look around at everyone and you're like, you saw that too, right? You saw that too, right? And that's just like in us. Like it's in all of us to want that shared experience or just confirmation. Like I saw that, you saw that, right?
I agree. I miss it.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. We'll let you go.
Love being on with you guys. I'm so thrilled for what you guys are doing and building and continuing to build. And I'm such a fan and keep doing your thing, guys. You guys really have carved a totally different avenue in this business and you keep expanding on it. So keep crushing it, man.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. Ruocco. And there he was.
There he was.
I tweeted him, tell him you liked him. Every time Ryan comes on, it's kind of just a catch-up between buddies. So
yeah,
a lot of broadcast talk. A lot of Yankees talk at the end.
Good stuff.
If you made it through all the production and life and broadcast talk, you got some good Yankees talk at the end.
Yeah, that's some people's favorite episode from the year. We're winding down. So
hats off to you.
Go check out Ruocco's pod, obviously. Go check out the CC doc coming out. Jimmy's going to get another random stat for you, which is probably going to become a frequent thing.
Most walks lifetime in the World Series.
Most walks lifetime in the World Series.
Yep.
Babe Ruth.
No. Mickey Mantle, 43.
I had the right team.
Yeah, right team. So you won. And that was the end of this episode. Thank you very much for tuning in. Go Yanks. Tell them Grams.
Go Yankees.